Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Genesis Mindset. This is episode 3 for today. So, today I'll be having a chat with Anders Johnsson. So, I imagine I've probably got the pronunciation incorrect there. So, maybe Anders Johnsson of Love.io and XUSD. So, we'll be sharing his story behind his journey into Pulsechain and the creation of what was one of the first projects on Pulsechain, the Love.io project, and his new project now, XUSD, and how he came about XUSD through his journey into the Atropa ecosystem. So with that, let's bring Anders onto the stage. So how's it going, Anders? Oh, what happened? I can't hear you at the moment.
Hi, Stephen. Very nice being here. I'm all fine. Just
Good. Yeah, there was a little bit of sound issues
yeah,
there.
it's lacking a little lagging, but you hear me fine, yeah.
I can hear you fine, but I can't see your
Yeah.
face move or anything like that. Massive lag. So
Yeah, but I can. You interrupt me if you don't hear me clearly. So yes, my name is Anders Johnsson, and yeah, okay, yeah, but okay, so lag here. We see.
okay, Anders, just 1
Maybe.
second. Just
Yeah, I
pause for a
just
second.
start, so it's probably.
Let's see
Yeah,
how laggy we've got. So give me a high five.
high five.
Right. So we got a lot of lag, but that's okay. So in other words, as we both talk, as I talk
Okay.
and ask the questions, I know that there's about a 5 to 10 second lag. So just bear that in mind for both of us. So yeah, first, Anders, tell us about your journey into Pulsechain.
Okay. Yeah, so my journey into Pulsechain, crypto overall, I was very early. Actually, Bitcoin, I was extremely early. So discovered Bitcoin already 2010. I before that, I was in IT, did one quite famous startup called Ticrete that actually have some Australian connection as well. It was a company that we built doing architectural floor plans, and I know that you also have an architectural background, Stephen. So maybe you have seen some of those digital floor plans and so on. So we basically set up a company in China and did mass production of digital floor plans. And that company became very big. I worked and built the company together with another co-founder. And that company had main production of digital floor plans in China and had offices we set up in 11 countries around the world. And was bought later by News Corp Australia, which is this massive company that owns Fox News in the US and also big in real estate. As well. They have realestate.com in the US and realestate.com.au in Australia and so on. And all the properties that the agents and the realtors they are listing, they attach like a digital floor plan. And that is most likely done by Ticrete, which I co-founded way back and so on. But that company kept me in China for and internationally. I had come to China as a young student in the 90s to learn Chinese. I had a business and economics degree from Sweden and was working in China and internationally building this company. But then, when I exited to News Corp, I moved back to Sweden and lived on a very remote island and was basically thinking I was going to retire and so on. But then I got some problems with the Swedish tax authorities. So, and I wanted to see where I could hide hide some of my money, and I have heard it have come this.
Are you on Interpol's most wanted list, Anders?
No, I wasn't. So luckily, but it is like so me his streams, you know, that's just like bullshit anyway. But I could probably be there, you know, because they were like after me the tax authorities and so on, and
just below Richard Hart on the most wanted list.
But then I heard these yeah. So, but that led me into like Bitcoin already like 2010, and that was basically a lot of similarities what we see today on the Pulsechain as well. With that, you could basically didn't know the value. What was the value of a Bitcoin back then, you know? And I think when I saw it the first time, it was like 27. 50 cents, you know, one Bitcoin, and no one really understood the value of it. Then, 2011, something big happened, and that also have a little bit of an Australian connection. Julian Assange at WikiLeaks, he was basically banned for taking donations to Wiki using MasterCard and Visa, but so then the WikiLeaks started to accept Bitcoin. So then it started to really people started to understand the value and so on, and at that time I had another Australian friend actually, who was co-founder of one big company in Australia called Vocus Communications, and he introduced and said like, let's start with some mining together and so on. So we had a little.
Oh, looks like Anders has just been rugged. The connection doesn't look so great. So just to summarize what Anders has been saying. So basically Anders is a huge entrepreneur. As he mentioned, I'm an architect as well. And so I've actually, I looked up his previous business, and when you go to a website, like in Australia, there'll be a website called realestate.com. And when you go to this particular website, there'll be floor plans that are generated for those particular websites. And so Anders' company is part of that. So Anders has a very entrepreneurial background. So Anders, obviously you just got rugged. Hopefully the connection's a little bit better. So I was just summarizing the fact that you have an entrepreneurial background. I was going to mention that you have a background. So, and then you got onto the Australian part. So you were basically getting into your foray into Australia.
So I have a lot of Australian friends and so on, and I'm also married to Australian as well, and my kids they are half Australian, so I have like Australian connection and so on. And so basically very early I got in to Bitcoin there. Still, we didn't really understand the value of it, and I also was running other companies and so on as well. But 2015, when Ethereum was founded and Vitalik launched Ethereum, then we started to be more involved in like a blockchain. We have to remember, you know, like a blockchain was probably unknown, you know, like before, you know, like Bitcoin. I don't think Satoshi he mentioned like blockchain in the white paper, you know, and so on. And it was a Turing complete, which meant that we could start to build dApps and so on smart contracts and so on Ethereum. So when Ethereum started to take off, I was part of a quite large think tank that was also based in Australia and Southeast Asia, called 24/7 Block Labs, and we had like devs doing smart contract audits and so on, and I was advisor, to many ICOs and so on that was launching during the different stages on Ethereum and so on. I still was quite much like a Bitcoin. I wouldn't say maxi, but I was like still in that like a big Bitcoin believer and so on, and that was also how I first got introduced to Richard and so on, and especially when he started to be public, like to starting to do streams and so on around 2000. I think it was like 17 and so on, especially when we had a big Bitcoin divide, when Bitcoin Cash was forked out, and we had Roger Ver on one side and Richard on the Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Maxi. So that was how I started to know Richard and follow his content and so on, and of course also Hex when he launched Hex, and he became Judas of the of the Bitcoin community and so on. So that was that's the old Richard. So
this is the Richard that
but
none of
but
the
very back then, you know, like very intelligent. You saw that immediately.
But none of them acknowledge this Richard, though. None of them. Not one. Not one. They don't do their research. Even all this Interpol stuff, it's like this thing that's probably...
I
like
couldn't hear you there, Stephen. It's a little bad with it.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can the people in chat hear me?
Yeah.
Because maybe it might be your connection. I just want to check if people in chat can hear me. Can anyone in chat, Peanut Brain or anyone in there, just confirm if you can hear me clearly? Anyone in chat? Just let me know if you can hear this clearly. Okay, Nikki can... Oh, Nikki!
Yeah.
Is that Nikki? XUSD Nikki? Good to see you in here, Nikki, if that's XUSD Nikki. But anyway, yes, everyone can hear me. So maybe
perfect.
It's just... So
perfect.
Keep going. Sorry, Anders.
Yeah, so no, so that was how my first like introduction to Richard, and then of course Hex and so on, very early, and so on. And if we should go into Love.io, so Love.io was actually an idea that was came from the beginning from this think tank 24/7 Block Labs, and that was to create like a cryptocurrency for mainstream adoption and so on. And that was how Love like started, like an idea to be able to have like a ticker that could you could send money with Love basically, and it could be used like micro tipping and so on. What we had back then, like 2017-18, Uniswap was launched, and that was when Hex really started to take off, you know, when it was like the biggest on Uniswap in the beginning and so on, and we had ideas if we were going to launch it already then, but we didn't have like a chain to launch it that could have like cheap transactions, especially because if you're going to have like a cryptocurrency that could be like mainstream and micro tipping and so on, you cannot have like Ethereum's fees and so on. So it was basically just an idea at that time, but but then when Richard, a couple of years later, when he wanted to launch Pulsechain, then of course I saw that this is like the perfect place to launch like a cryptocurrency with a ticker LOVE, because you could have like the Ethereum security and code built on Solidity, and you could have like very cheap transactions on these new chain that Richard envisioned and so on. So that meant that then of course COVID came and so on, but that project Love.io really start to take its form, and that we were going to launch it on Pulsechain. So after in Australia at that and when I finally could leave Australia, because Australia had really hard lockdown and so on, the borders was closed and so on. But after they opened up and I could leave, then basically I was out on all international crypto conferences promoting Love.io and Pulsechain, both in the US, in Europe, and so on. I think we were at over 40 international crypto conferences, and I had to do debates as well, and of course defending Richard. They put me in Bitcoin maxi debates, and so on, and I had to like be the one that. So I was, but it was a very nice time, and then
So Anders, can I just ask you, as I'm kind of preparing some of these things, my browser crashed a little bit there, but what gave you, so as someone who's a successful entrepreneur, so it's clear to me that you're a successful entrepreneur, what gave you the conviction in Richard Heart? Why? I mean, you're talking about Bitcoin and all these different cryptocurrencies, and then obviously like, from a gas perspective, you gravitated towards Pulse, but also for Richard Heart, what made you bullish on Richard Heart?
So it's of course people need to really to get to know Richard, and through like his streams, and so on, and then you really understand the very, very high intelligence level that this man has, and he of course with like his core crypto philosophies and so on is also like mine, and I don't know if I got it from listening to Richard, and so on, but you have, like if we see the like the evil parts of crypto, which if you have been like long time in crypto, and I have seen it like so much, like you have had, of course you have all these like the economic parts of it, like rug pools, like people are in there for easy and rugging, and so on. And of course, Richard, he have always been like very, very like tough against that, and also if you are giving up your keys, then it's not your crypto, it's like that have been like the huge problem in like crypto. And of course it can be very easy to be part of like ecosystems that like Celsius and Luna and everything, and everyone is happy, but if those key fundamentals are not there, that if you're giving away the keys and you are doing all of these things that of course Richard have been very, very like strictly that is his philosophy, that is like the core thing, and decentralization, and so on is extremely important, as I see that he believes. And he also have like he also sees the same things that what makes like a cryptocurrency valuable, and it is it's not directly the code, it is like the community, it is the Metcalfe's law, more people, that is actually the mind share that Somi is really good in describing, this with like the cult and so on, and the religion it becomes, and we saw that, and that was the same as I said in the beginning, like what we have Pulsechain now, and we have a lot of assets on Pulsechain, and we don't can see the value. That was the same, like 2010 in Bitcoin, like you didn't know what is the value of this, but then when it starts, like to be, like a monetary energy coming in, and people are holding, and they can, now we have many different things that we didn't have back then. Now we have like DeFi, and you can create value and holding through yields, and so on, So so everything that Richard's vision and so on, and of course it have been not something that you get from day one, like 2017 when I start to follow Richard and in Bitcoin and so on, because he was back then too, like Richard was like really a Bitcoin core maxi, he was that was and that was also why he got so much hate, and still gets a lot of hate, is based on that that he became like Judas, that he left that Bitcoin core mindset, and when he created Hex, and it was like a better Bitcoin, they were like shaking when they heard that, and for them everything on Ethereum was scam, So
Sure.
so when
it's kind of ironic because it's like it's a successful mindset to be able to pivot with reality.
Yep, exactly. So
he's been able to adjust to the world. That's what's made him so successful. It's really, you go back to some of these topics. I mean, which one was it here? Be happier by quitting after a win instead of a loss. I saw one as well about democracy, how to fix democracy. He really came out of the gates trying to make the world a better place. That's what you can see straight away from his YouTube channel. So
and
obviously you gravitated towards his message.
His message, and I also like on the personal side as well. I also see a lot when you see like the sci-fi and so on, that he's
Yes.
it's my mindset as well, and because that's also a lot of evil that we have seen, like in crypto, that people have got rich very fast, and they like lose completely their reality, about things because money becomes, so it's no, so it's it's like the whole thing there with him, with like Richard's philosophy and what he have like created and so on. So so I've been part and loved, as you said, love.io. We were I think even that we were the first project that launched. We launched like 1 week after mainnet was released, and so on. And we also got a lot of support from big whales and so on in the ecosystem as well. And that's also something that many people don't really like with Richard's background, like Bitcoin Maxi and so on, and creating Hex, and many of those Hex whales that we have in our ecosystem, they are also like Genesis eat whales as well, and so on. So there is like a lot of like monetary energy that we have in our ecosystem, and so on. So
And we're starting to see
through
a lot of that
yeah,
evidence in the chat
it is
very recently as well, right?
yeah, it is.
So
So
just quickly, Anders. So first of all, Hans says God Jul Anders, God Jul
good
Spear.
jul, Merry Christmas in Swedish.
Good.
So he's
Is that Merry
Swedish.
Christmas in Swedish?
Yeah.
Okay. Merry Christmas, Hans. Merry Christmas. So,
Yeah.
and Matt, thank you so much for the super chat. Merry Christmas, brother. Thank you so much. So, Anders, tell us a little bit about what the first, okay, the thing that interested me most about Love.io was one, that it was one of the first projects launched on Pulsechain, and two,
Yeah.
this concept of the fact that a universal cryptocurrency aiming to solve real world problems using advanced EVM blockchain technology, achieving mass adoption through e-commerce, gaming, and
Yeah.
social media in the
Yeah.
transformation to internet value. So when I click
Yeah.
on shop and earn, this concept very, very much interests me. You know, we were talking about,
Yeah.
you mentioned microtransactions earlier. So tell us a little bit about Love.io in the concept of
Yeah.
microtransactions and your difficulties with launching on Pulsechain.
Yeah. So first, I wouldn't say that it was any difficulty launching on Pulsechain, because like Love.io would not be able to exist on any other chain. So Love, as we said, is like a cryptocurrency that is used in like have a like real world utility functions. And that means, for example, in e-commerce, so we have lovify.com, which is like a premium domain as well. And here we get like every time someone is buying a product, and we have integrated like drop shippers from all over the world into these lovify.com. So that basically, if you're going to buy a perfume, you can go in and buy, and it's the only markup from the drop shippers. So this is even cheaper than Amazon. You know, the only markup is like 10% love rewards that is paid back as a cashback. So that means that when someone is buying something for, let's say, a perfume for $100, then they get $10 back in love rewards, and that then they can like hold, or they can stake it. We have a staking with very good yield and so on. But it's a way to get like crypto adoption, that we get like people in to earn. You know, like we have many that is not claiming they love, but at the same time, it's still like for $100 sale, $90 goes to the drop shipper for the product and for the for the the delivery and so on, and then $10 goes back as like you crypto love cashback. So that means a buy order every time. That's why Love have like many small buy orders. So if we have like 10 products sold during the day, that's maybe like altogether like $100 in buy order on Pulsex. So it works very good, and also with like micro tipping and so on and so on. Of course, Love, we started with like the biggest. I think we had like $3 million at launch in LP. But of course, we had it, you know, with Pulsex and so on. So when Pulsex went down, then of course Love have gone down as well with that. So the shorts is quite equivalent to Pulsex short and so on. And of course, the leverage down is higher because there's much more liquidity that have been on the Pulsex side than on Love.io side. But we still believe that Love have a fantastic future now when our ecosystem start to move up. One unique thing with Lab.io as well is that we have put in a lot of money into dev work. So we have launched Lab on 4 chains. So we have a bridge. We were the first bridge on Pulsechain as well. So you can bridge Lab from Ethereum to Pulsechain, or you can bridge from Binance Smart Chain to is that the MetaMask, or let's see.
It was MetaMask,
I think, and and we have the Binance Smart Chain bridge 1-to-1. So that means that now when the pump start come on the Pulsechain, and as I say, we do a lot with these when it comes to like the Pt I narrative, and also what we will soon talk about, XUSD and so on, is that when Pulsechain start to move up, and since we already have a 1-to-1 peg with Love on Ethereum, Love on Binance Smart Chain, Love on Base, that also means that the economic energy lifts up on both sides, already, So these will create like both a massive inflow into Pulsechain. We have like the adoption tools already, as we say, with e-commerce and so on, with Lovify and so on. But this will be like fantastic when the big X's start to come on Pulsechain, because we will raise up on all these major EVM chains out there. So so Love have been our like baby on Pulsechain, and we believe that this will really take off. Of course, we are in the Pulsechain ecosystem, so nothing can't take off until the assets value goes up in Pulsechain and so on. But back, and we can maybe go further in, and what we also have been looking at. First of all, I am 100% convinced that Richard is and Richard's team is behind the Pt I and so on, and it's like I can say it with almost all certainty, and I think if you're not following Somi today, I think Somi is like really good in explaining why the Pt I narrative is correct and so on, in Richard's view, and I believe exactly the same. It's too much. First of all, it would be like if Pt I would be run by someone else, and it wouldn't be Richard, then Richard, he would have warned the community a long time ago. He wouldn't let like Pt I become, like the second or the third largest coin in his ecosystem if it's not him that is controlling it. So I am very convinced. Plus the gains for the whole Pulsechain ecosystem will be so massive that we can basically have, or Richard can have, like a money printer that can print, and we can really pump up all the core assets on Pulsechain. So I think that this is just a matter of time. It can maybe happen even tomorrow that the peg will happen. We have people that believes that, and I know the Atropa dev Maria.
February.
He thinks that it could happen already now, but I think he thinks that will happen in like 5-6 months, but I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah.
So this is
when
Maria's
when it
prediction. Basically, oh, I can't go back in. This is Maria's prediction. Actually, no, sugar. So let's Maria's predictions like this. So what? No, February. So
okay.
I heard February. So yeah, let's something like this. Something
Yeah.
crazy like this. I just don't see it. I would love to see it. It's going to be the most spectacular thing ever. But who really knows, right? So so yes, P-Dye. So obviously P-Dye is a fascinating thing. And then now one of the things, so before we get into XUSD, so obviously I've had a few people reach out to me, but the main culprit is Mr. Peanut Brain here. Mr. Peanut, he can hear us loud and clear. So he was someone who reached out to me early on about XUSD. So he was telling me about XUSD and telling me to look into XUSD. And at the time, I knew nothing about it. And I have many people constantly telling me to look into this project and that project. And so it's not that I don't want to, it's that I only have so many hours in the day. And I kept getting peppered. And then yourself reached out to me. I had a few other XUSD team members. So I thought, okay, I'm going to look into this. So I started to talk to some people. I spoke to Funding Jim, Gary Funding Jim. I just spoke to a couple of people that I trusted within the community just to put out my feelers, because obviously I know nothing about this project. And so I wanted to really be a little bit careful before I kind of start talking about it. So
of course.
and then obviously I met yourself. We did it. We had a little one-on-one chat, which was really great. And then I met all the team as well, and I became very comfortable with the team. So one of the things, obviously, that people have been, I'll say shill XUSD to me, is that it's not competing against P-Dye. And I think because I talk about P-Dye a lot, people think that I have some sort of allegiance with P-Dye, but for me, it's just like, yes, I've got some P-Dye, but it doesn't mean like I don't want to talk about other things. It's really just a time thing. So one thing that I learned through you and by studying what was happening with XUSD is it actually complements P-Dye rather than competes against it. So with that, let's get into a little bit of XUSD. So what got you into XUSD? Because I know that when we spoke, you were talking about what got you into the Atropa ecosystem and listening to this channel. So let's start.
So it was actually you that got me in this. So of course I am a big believer in the P-Dye narrative, as we say, and Atropa and what Maria is doing. And then I believe I watched a stream that you did like 6 months ago, where you were talking about another one, XUSD, that was like had huge problems, had like different. They had probably been rugged like 2 times before, I think, and you had the stream where you said that now there are 2 teams. They have divided up in 2 teams, and apparently one of the teams have a Maria dev that is working and trying to solve their problem, with the minting, the uncontrolled minting that they had, And and I was with both that I believe in that concept that like the assets will on Pulsechain, all the fork copies and so on will move up massively in value, and especially if the P-Dye narrative will be real, which as I say, like my basic it's like the basics are there that this is real, this is real, that Richard is doing that. And what will happen then with all the P-Dye copies and so on? Plus that we were looking for having like a stable coin in like Lovify, the e-commerce marketplace, that we also would like to have used and so on in that. So what I basically did, just like how you looked into XUSD, I started to look at that way into LUSD. So I contacted some trusted hexagons that I know, and I basically asked who can you trust in the LUSD guys, that is now working there, and I was recommended to contact a few persons, and then I got involved with this so-called Maria dev, and his name is Surfacing, and this is of course can be checked online. So he have been working with Maria, and probably, as I understand it, basically the only one that can basically read Maria's dysomia code and really understand how Maria is thinking and his code structure. And they also, of course, have a lot of like correspondence and communication when they are have been doing that. And he was involved at trying to help LUSD to be able to stop the minting, and they had started with some burning function, try to burn away the trillions of supply and so on. But quite early, I would say like only like a few weeks, I started to understand that solving the LUSD problem would be like too much, because there was this, they didn't know which wallets that was minting and so on, and it became, so I basically said that this is just a time bomb before that gets rugged again, and but my contact with like Surfacing especially was very good, and he is of course a very special person, just like Maria. That is basically they live for their code, and they maybe not the persons that normally that you may meet at crypto events and so on, because they are in their I wouldn't say basement, but they are sitting with a computer and they are working, the whole time, just like coding, and their codes is like their life, and so on. But we started, I think like 5-6 months ago, and he had worked a lot with different protocols before, like the Tom protocols and so on, when it came to creating like stable coins and algorithmic stable coins and so on. So he is very, very knowledgeable about that. And what we started to discuss was basically to be able to do like a stable coin that both take like Richard Hart's philosophy when it comes to the delayed gratification, that you hold for being a good actor, just like how Hex works, and that gives you rewards later on. And he had also started to code a system where he basically had a system where we call it the vibe system, that people that is holding, they get like credits, like good credits that is paid back in rewards later on and so on. And then if you are like trading, if you're dumping, then you get bad vibes that gives you lower your credit, and so on. And then of course you get less rewards and so on. So that was like what I really liked in that, to get away, especially when you saw coming with that background that we had looked at the LUSD, where basically no one could trust anyone, and it was just about like dumping and so on. So that started. We started to to discuss that would be fantastic to have this like stable coin that could do that, and also to use that if we say like the Maria philosophy, like, and also of course Richard Hart, I would say, which I believe that why Maria is involved in the Pulsechain ecosystem and so on, is that he also believes that when it comes to like Hart's law, that assets moves up together when they are paired liquidity wise and so on. And so what basically the XUSD protocol too is that it's really have this system with the vaults that is like LPs, that people who are like staking, that are holding their XUSD, and then they are putting that together with other Pulsechain assets, and especially PDI. So I think the biggest vault is the PDI pool, and that means that as you say, that I would say that I think that XUSD now have like 130 or 40x, even more, I think, and PDI have like 40x or 50x to the peg. But when PDI make it to the peg, then almost automatically XUSD will also make it to the peg, because there is so much TVL that is like locked in. So every time PDI moves and the other Pulsechain assets moves, then XUSD also moves, and that is of course. So now when we saw the big dump in like PDI, and Atropa is also a big vault in the XUSD protocol, then of course XUSD moves down. But otherwise it follows that very, very closely. And so I would say like the core function of the XUSD protocol is the vibe system, that good actors, delayed gratification holders that is holding, get rewards when the minting. And now there is no the phases are like we're talking about, like the Genesis phase that is past now, but now it's like the distribution phase, and then a lot of like the distribution is the rewards that is paid from the vaults. So everyone that is like taking the PDI and put it in the vault, they get XUSD rewards and so on. So it is have worked like extremely good, the protocol. So yes, I was basically part from the beginning, helping. I am not like a dev myself, and all the dev work is of course surfacing that have been doing. And we also have a couple of other devs, one extremely good German dev that is Konstantin, is also working in the protocol. Yeah,
he's doing the MakerDAO front end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he is extremely good as well, and then we have one math genius, Kathy. She is working also very closely with Surfacing, or John, as his name is. With like the algorithms and the calculations and so on, that is with the code and so on. So but I am amazed by where XUSD have come now. When I just look at it, it has first, as I said, the core principles that I strongly believe in, and that Richard, of course, strongly believe in, holding long term, and that gives rewards and so on, and that works in a system like there is quite high taxation now during this, like the Genesis and the distribution phase. So every transaction I think have like 4% tax, but then it's like 70% is like burnt immediately. So more volume that is like traded, more is burned. So the burning rate have been like fantastic as well, and contracts the supply. And then you have rewards and so on that is giving mainly to the vaults and so on, to the people who is providing LP. But that also gives this, when it comes to the, as we say, the leverage, like when PDI and Atropa and all other the core assets in Pulsechain. I think that it's like fantastic when I just like think about it. But I think that there is almost $2 million in TVL in the vaults, but the market cap of XUSD is a little over $1 million, so you almost have like 200% in TVL compared to market cap. So that is also like fantastic, because when we see this like pump is that will happen when the PDI peg comes, and also the further pump in the Pulsechain assets in PLX and PLS and so on, that will be massive. So it's
Wow.
I think yeah.
Look at some of these TVLs here. Yeah, 231. Sorry, TVL 8, nearly $1 million, and then some of these APRs. Just before we get too much into this, so just obviously, yeah, Peanut Brain here. So thanks for the shout out. Glad my little peanut brain could repay a bit back after all the knowledge you've provided me. So anyone who follows this channel knows that I really am very careful about protecting the people of this channel and the people who follow me. I don't want to give any, like, I'm very careful and deliberate about the kind of things that I follow and sort of put my name behind as well. So one of the things that was interesting was that everybody kept saying to me, "Oh, surfacing is Maria's dev. It's Maria's dev." It was almost, it was almost like
yeah,
to show the
I don't. So I think we have to be clear there, because Maria, of course, is Maria, you know, and they are not like, he's not like working in a team. He's not like the Maria team, you know, that he have devs and so on. But how they work is that we have like a community that is like. I would say work closely with him. They are reading each other's code and so on. So, for example, Surfacing basically was auditing Maria's Desomia code and so on. So they work like really close. They are very similar how they think, and as you will know, you know, and your viewers will know when Surfacing will come on, and he's a very nice young man and so on, very intelligent. And one thing that I also learned that maybe I mentioned to you before is that is John, he actually grew up in Fort Lauderdale, which I believe Richard also did. And Richard, he was, as we see on his Twitter profile, he have this class photo where Richard is the only white kid among all these black kids. And what John said, when I talked to him in the beginning, and I said, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and then I had to go to this special school for special gifted kids, you know, and it was only black kids there almost. And I said, that's the same as Richard. He also grew. So that could maybe be that they went to the same school, you know. So it would be very interesting when Richard start to stream again, and we can ask that question of the name, because maybe John, you know, went to the same school as Richard went to in Fort Lauderdale, because it cannot be that many special school for special gifted kids, No, so
Probably not.
no.
And so, yeah, one thing that I wanted to comment about that was I feel very, yeah, I mean, it's what people might consider to be like spiritual, but I don't, it's just whatever, right? It's just physics and vibration. So I had very
Yeah.
limited, the interactions, I had no interactions really at all with surfacing besides seeing him in the chat logs. But I never got a
Yeah.
bad like vibe from him. Whereas, for example, with LUSD, when I had
Yeah.
people in LUSD reaching out to me and talking to me about like, oh, let's do a
Yeah.
stream together. They would even send me voice messages, and I was just like,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. It doesn't
No.
feel right.
No.
And this was before it got rugged. So my
Yeah.
intuition is like very, I wouldn't even call it intuition. I just feel very in tune with this person is a rat, this person is not
Yeah.
a rat. And I never
Yeah.
got that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
surfacing, but of course,
No.
when you
No.
actually, it was the same as Maria, right? I never really got that
Yeah.
from Maria, but when I saw Maria talk in Zurich, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I really trust
Yeah.
Maria now. Like I was so
Yeah.
bullish,
Yeah.
and everybody else became bullish.
Yeah.
And so having a chat with John, who is surfacing, and the team with
Yeah.
XUSD, Kathy and Nikki and yourself, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
like I really felt so comfortable. Like when I have a
Yeah.
conversation with someone and I don't feel discomfort,
No.
that for me, that's like I can just, I'm very
Yeah.
sensitive. I can really feel if this person is like, they're talking to me with like words of honey, but the honey's covering
Yeah.
shit. And I can
Yeah.
smell the
Yeah.
shit. My vibe
Yep.
can
Yep.
smell
Yep.
the
Yep.
shit. I
Yep.
didn't get that with any of them. So I just felt very comfortable with
No.
everybody on the team.
Yeah, and yeah, it was the same for me too. And I, yeah, as I mentioned to you, I did exactly the same thing. Like when I approached them, at first I wanted to find out who can you like trust, because there was like everyone was like fudding each other, and it was like blaming each other who is minting, and it was like so bad. And yeah, there's a picture of us there. No, so
There's
I
Nikki.
did that as well. Yeah, surfing, that's cat. And we have to understand, and that is of course also regarding Richard as well. That many times when it's like this very intelligent people, and very when we're talking about like John, I think John, he also have like 147 in Mensa, and Kathy, she have 142 in Mensa as well, and they of course they are very good in that intelligence when it comes to like coding or maths and so on, but then of course they can lack maybe like when it comes to like the social intelligence and so on, and that was what I also discovered, and I'm so old and have worked so much with like different IT teams and people, in the past, so I always take time, and before. Now I got them to come, so that's a picture of us here in Phuket, that we have been here for like 2 weeks and working together and so on. But that is quite amazing that I were able to get them here from all over the world, and so on. Because otherwise, when it comes to like John, and that the same with like Maria when he went to Amsterdam, they feel most comfortable sitting in their like yeah, shouldn't say basement, but they're sitting with their computer, like in their home, that's where they feel like safe, and so on. And but I have got like a really good contact with them, and so on, and working with them, and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, like I said, I've chatted with all of them and I felt extremely comfortable with all of them. And then when I looked into the project and I looked into what the concept was, and that was one of the things as well that Peanut Brain was saying to me, that basically like, oh, it's not competing against Pt I. And everybody thinks I'm a Pt I. I'm actually going to talk about it. But
No.
what actually made me bullish on this was the way that it seems to support Pt I. So first of all, it's
Yeah.
one of its heaviest pools, but if it's going to get to a peg, if it's going to get to a 1-to-1, so obviously here we've got some of these auto compounding vaults. So I'm going to be digging in more into these sorts of the technical sides of things with John, surfacing, for example. But I just want to look at this chart, for example, as a 1-to-1. And essentially one thing that really struck me, because I'm really into quantum mechanics, vibrations, flow. I know Kathy's obviously really big into this as well. One thing that's really fascinating about the XUSD, so XUSD is going to fluctuate between, or what John was saying is basically it's not supposed to be a stable coin. It's not supposed to be 1-to-1. It's supposed to fluctuate. So it's supposed to fluctuate between, say, 110 and 90 cents. And this is something that's really good for the community holders. And so it's a community stable coin, which is like a vibratile stable coin. This is something that I really loved. But the very fact that it doesn't stay at a stable peg is what supports, is what can support the peg of Pt I and the other P stables on the blockchain. It can basically provide it's an arbitrage opportunity. So if something's fluctuating and something's supposed to stay stable, the fluctuating thing is going to help it stabilize. Because if you look at things like this at the moment, so this is a ratio chart between XUSD and DAI. If I swap my DAI into XUSD and it gets to $1, then I've done and it gets to 1-to-1, I've done a 4x on my Pt I, for example. And so the community, if it's supposed to fluctuate, you could simply exist within XUSD and Pt I. If you just want to go, all right, I want to simplify my life. I don't want to look at 1,000 charts. I just want to exist within XUSD and DAI. And you can just wait for XUSD to get to $1.10, or basically be priced higher, swap it, and then vice versa, and just keep swapping back and forth. And then also obviously interacting with the vaults. But there's so many ways you can play this. But the fact that it vibrates is what I loved. I saw that. I was like, wow.
It is fantastic code, and as I mentioned, John, he have worked in the past, and I believe Maria have also worked with that in the past, with these like the Tom protocols, and so on, and been on the big stable coin projects before. So they know these things like really, really good when it comes to like this contraction and the expansion, like the whole time around the peg, And this is like the way to the peg, because when like we say like the peg, but when it comes to like the stabilizing phase, then an additional protocol will be implemented, which will work similar to the maker protocol, and so on. And that means that there can be like, you can put in like collateral if you want to put in PLX, for example, and then you can mint your own XUSD and so on. And that is also what I see when I looked at this from the beginning, and that's why love.io. So we have like followed. We follow with XUSD, and of course XUSD follow with Pt I. So when that have gone down, love have also gone down, and that is because we are sitting, I think, around 500,000 in LP to XUSD as well, and that is when the addition to the protocol, and that was nothing that should been implanted in the beginning, because that was one of the problem. Like we're talking about LUSD, because the minting started, and so on. So what XUSD is that basically the minting will not be implemented until like this destabilizing phase have come in. So then, for example, Love and also other communities on Pulsechain that have vaults and so on. That means that, for example, then Love Whale, for example, could then, in theory, if voted in, because that will of course be like a community vote, but if like Love could potentially also be like a collateral in later on to be able to mint XUSD as well, and that means that you are taking away like the sell pressure from big whales in Love, for example, and that will stabilize there as well. So everything, it's like connected liquidity wise. It ends up with Pi. So when Richard peg Pi, these would flow all over like the Pulsechain ecosystem, and of course Richard, he will pump up. I think it's Somi. Somi is like fantastic in his analysis and so on. I think that he calculated that it would be even 10x more pump with the SAC funds using the PDI structure than if, for example, the SAC funds would be injected directly into PLX and so on. I think that if he would inject it like directly, we could look at maybe a 22x pump of the PLX and Pulse and so on. But using the PDI structure, we could 10x that, so maybe even look at over 200x of all the other assets, and and that is also when I'm like thinking how Maria thinks with Atropa and all of these with the assets and so on that he creating and connecting with LPs. It is like everything on Pulsechain will raise in price, So
Yes. So
yeah,
it's a very exciting concept, and I don't want to go too much into this because I know that Nikki is basically in the process of updating all the docs, and we'll go into the technical stuff with surfacing, obviously, as one of the key devs behind all of this. But I wonder if there's anything in particular that you do want to mention about XUSD.
No, I think that we have just like covered like overall, and then we can go deeper in, and as we say, and you are now also will have like John on and doing a lot of content with XUSD. There will be like a lot of good things coming like the next few weeks here and so on. And I also, what I really love with XUSD is that it's a very big involvement from like Surf. He's almost always in the chat as well, and he's like so good in the XUSD chat. He's like answering questions, and even if he he's like a fantastic like back end dev, and so on, but there is always we also have some good front end devs involved there now as well, so fixing up like the front ends and everything, but I think in a very active small community. I think they are there is only like 500 in the chat, but you probably have like 250 online like the whole time, so they're very active and involved as well. So So very interesting protocol.
It's good to hear. So I think, what do we got here? So let me just put this on a 1. So Matt here is saying, so Matt, this is actually more than a 150x to $1. So at the minute, XUSD is probably 215x around about $1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I believe in it. I believe in the tokenomics of it from what I've understood. And from the team, and really listening to everybody, and really on that, I suppose we should probably also maybe now mention that obviously one of the purposes of me meeting the team was, Anders, you were the first, or actually, I don't know who the first reached out to me, but basically you guys reached out to me to join the team. And I was a little bit apprehensive, obviously, at the start, because I am very protective of this channel, and I didn't want to. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I wanted to really be delicate about, like, at this point in this channel. No, I haven't really been like paid to promote anything. So now that I spoke to all of you guys, I was very comfortable with joining the team. And then. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm now like part of the team. We haven't really figured out any kind of official name, but yeah, I'm basically part of the marketing and promotion, you could say. So this will be something that I'll be talking about regularly. So
and I like that's also how I see it, and I think that's also like Richard philosophy. It's like we don't have like names of roles or anything. It's like I am like called CEO Love.io, but that's almost like and funny name. But in crypto we are in a community, and we are like having like you take the role based on what you do and so on. So that is how I see it. And then of course you can add value and so on, and that's how I see it. So I think that I had a good part in the beginning, and helping to like formulate, and then of course John or Surfacing, he was like coding everything, but I wanted to get this like the Richard philosophy into the protocol, working in that way and so on. But it is, and I think that, and as you say, like it's like 220x now is not like chill to anyone or so on, but just to see it is that, and it's like the TVL. I think that is I think that is we looked there now, it was like close to 1 million, but I think that is almost 2 million. See if it is right updated there.
Almost 1 million.
How much?
Oh, that's liquidity. Well, actually, so this is liquidity. I don't know if the liquidity, I assume the liquidity is also going to read the TVL on these liquidity pools. I assume so.
I think
let's
it's
have a look, actually. So XUSD and Pulsechain, 39,000 in TVL. So if we look here, okay.
There we
yeah. So I think this is more up to date than possibly this. This is very much like, almost real time. So this is like a million. Let me just double check actually. So ink, where's okay. Oh, hang on. No, there should be ink. So ink. So ink 62,000. On this one, ink is okay. Yes. Okay. So this one here is like more up to date, I suppose, than this. Yeah, so it's almost 1 million in TVL, so, or in liquidity.
And it's so that's like basically the same as current market cap. I think the market cap is around that as well, and so that is so if we just see this when with the leverage. Like if when, as I say, I'm so convinced that the PDI will reach the peg, and then we can see the leverage of all the other protocols. And since we have that market cap is equal the TVL, that will lift the XUSD. Same time PDI reach the peg, then we see XUSD most likely reach the peg as well. Just based on the economic energy in the vaults. So that's how I think that it's like massive potential in a lot of these like that is leveraged. So
Damn, it's not showing. It's showing the P. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the market cap, yeah. The market cap is, yeah. Wow. Okay, so hang on a second. So the DAI stablecoin is 451 million, and the XUSD market cap is, it was 919 million, which really matches up very, very. I mean, this liquidity is just slightly more than the
900. Yeah, it's under $1 million in market cap.
Correct. So I think
Yeah.
I completely agree in the concept of the fact that PDI is its biggest liquidity pool. So PDI being its biggest liquidity pool at the minute, and we'll go into these details more with servicing, but 8.5% of the liquidity is with PDI. So PDI dragging up is also going to drag it up. But I think that there's more mechanisms behind it in terms of the way that the community interacts with it, with the thing that the thing that made me like instantly bullish on it was this concept of a fluctuating, like the concept of it being a vibrating stablecoin. It's designed to be something where the community interacts with it, where it gets burnt and minted based on the way that it fluctuates around the one-to-one market. That's what I loved about it most. I thought that is such a brilliant concept. You got this vibe pass. We got Marcus here, who's not giving financial advice. Marcus is definitely not giving financial advice to buy a vibe pass. So, Merry Christmas to you as well, Ruffle. So so the vibe pass is really, that's also something that made me very, very bullish on it, is that it's very the way the token interacts directly with the community, and the way the community interacts directly with the token based on the price fluctuations, which is also something that I found very, very fascinating. And the way that you have this, the idea behind the vibes and the positive vibes and negative vibes. Like I said, we won't go too much into that today. We're just going to introduce the concept of it today. But we'll kind of leave some teasers for some future episodes. So, anything else you kind of talk about, Anders?
No. I think we covered quite many things here today. So I'm looking forward to be on your stream sometime again soon, I hope.
Definitely. Yeah, so the next one now is obviously, we'll see how we go, but it sounds like the next one's going to be John surfacing. So we'll talk to John, one of the key devs, or basically the key dev behind this project. So I'll be really, really interested to hear it from his perspective. So we're going to keep digging into this, and hopefully over time, week by week, just stay tuned into how we're going to unravel this puzzle that is XUSD. So again, I'm not a dev myself, but I can sort of see things and feel things, and I felt very positive about XUSD. And when I started to look into it, I felt very positive, and it seems like an extremely, extremely good opportunity for the whole, not just for the holders. That's what I love about it. It's about benefiting all of the chain and this stablecoin narrative. Which I love.
And I think that is the way we should look. I think that this PDI narrative is like a unifier in the Pulsechain ecosystem, because that will actually bring, like so many and love, like as we see. Yes, of course, we now when we are bonded liquidity wise and so on with like XUSD and PDI and so on indirectly, we go down. But when that get moving up, we will see in the whole ecosystem everything will move up so much, you know. And I think that if it's like core hexicans or Pulsechain maxes, you know, like everyone benefits from like the PDI narrative. And then of course good protocols like XUSD will benefit even more, you know. So yeah, interesting time ahead.
Definitely. Looking forward to digging into it more. So Nikki's been here watching. So Nikki, once he finishes those docs, we're gonna do an episode on the docs. We're gonna do an episode on John deep diving into it, and then week by week we're going to unravel this beautiful thing that is XUSD. So with that, Anders, any final statements before we finish up?
No, Merry Christmas to you, Stephen.
Thank you.
And a Happy New Year. I hope you have it good and relaxing during Christmas.
Same to you. Yeah, same to you. Yeah. Are you going to be in Thailand for Christmas or Australia?
Yeah, I will go. I will go to Sweden next week. So I will be in Sweden.
Back to the motherland.
Yeah, get some snow, hopefully.
Lovely. White Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, Anders, you have a lovely Christmas. Everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you for commenting. We got some good comments here, so we'll leave it with that. Thanks a lot, everyone. So share this out and like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, because I probably won't do a stream tomorrow. So everybody have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Anders.
Cheers. Bye.